Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Migron Mera. I'm going to apologize for my voice real quick. A little deeper than usual. I'm getting over a cold, but nothing I can't handle, so we're going to proceed as normal. Thanks so much to Migron for sending this in for review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. So I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is probably my favorite premium knife that Migron has created. And I'm going to explain exactly why. But they did an excellent job with this, and they kept the price, as per usual with Migron, they kept the price very reasonable for what it is. So let's go ahead, and it'll be linked down in the description. You guys can check it out if you want to. It does help my channel and use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and measure it. The overall length is coming in at 8¼ inches. That's just about perfect for what I prefer, and that's based on one particular knife, which I'm going to show you guys here in a sec. The blade length is actually about 3.6 inches. Cutting edge is about 3.35. Now, before we do any size comparisons, I want to show you the knife that this reminds me the most of, and that's my favorite Hinderer ever, very specifically the DLT Trading non-flipper Fullard Spear XM18 3.5 inch in full tie. So obviously the Migron is doing its own thing, but it has it has a lot of the characteristics that I prefer. I love the blade. I love the open ergonomic positions because there is no flipper tab. I think the non-flipper XMs are much better. This guy has, a means of deployment. It's not the same as the floor here, but it's a means of deployment that is a little bit easier to manipulate than, the thumb studs. That's part of the reason why I like the Fullard Spear version, because flipping this knife in particular is made easier by the presence of that fuller. And then this has textured titanium, but it's got a one-up on the Hinderer because it is contoured. Now, obviously, the Hinderer costs way more money, literally triple, but it's made small batch in the USA, right? And it's got the titanium. If you're thinking, no, those are only $425, I'm talking about with the titanium scale, right? The other thing that it reminds me of is the Vero. In this case, I'm just using the Synapse XL, and it's because of the rectangular opening slot, right? I'm not saying it's a copy. That's just kind of what it reminds me of. So it's almost like they combined a little bit, I guess, this two. My love for this size of knife came directly from this particular XM18. You guys know from years ago, I'm a huge Hinderer fan. So that's really cool. If you've ever looked at the Hinderer XM18 and thought, wow, I love that. Number one, you can't find them. Number two, even if you can, good luck. Find them, but even if you can, they're super expensive. This is a good alternative. Just say that right there. It's not exactly the same, but it's a good alternative. Let's do some size comparisons up against some more common stuff. Any custom scales you see in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. So up against the 8010 and the 8020.5, you can see here it's a full-size knife. It's just not a massive knife. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Very similar in overall length to the PM2, but, I'd say a decent amount more cutting edge. Yeah, decent amount. While still having very similar ergonomic lines. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. And let's put it up against the Hogue Deka. There we go. Okay, so how's the action on this guy? I prefer the action of this knife over, I think, any other Migron so far. And the front flipper's there. I probably personally wouldn't continue to use that very much. I mean, sitting around and having this in my pocket, I would find myself fidgeting and playing with the front flipper. But when it came time to use it, I wasn't using the front flipper. I was using the little rectangle. Because personally, I have a better grip on the knife when I'm reverse flicking it than I do when I side flick it, right? Now, you can also pinch open it. That rectangle is on both sides, which I think is the way to do that. And you can thumb flick it out, but you got to go more this way. But this is, a lot of people, like my brother is always like, why do you go out of your way to reverse flick the knife? And I'm like, honestly, that's the way that I just do it now. I've done it for so long that that's the way that my hands are comfortable deploying these things. And that's why I like these either slots or fullers or opening holes. That's why I prefer them. I just find that I have the best grip on my knife when I'm deploying it outside of just, opening it like this. But it just is it's like the least amount of brain power and the least likely scenario where I'm going to like throw the knife or drop it, right? So I like this, and they were smart and made the cutout for the handle profile. They accommodated for almost the entirety. It's like 99. No, they accommodated for the entire amount of that on the back side and especially on the front side, right? This is cut a little lower so that access to the lock bar is present and very, very easy, right? But the D10 is tuned correctly. The ledge isn't sharp, so you're not like shaving your fingernails every time. Really nice. It's really, really well done. And the detent is strong, but you can get enough leverage. You can get enough leverage there that it fires, and it feels good to deploy it. This is really well done. I like this a lot. So really nice, very smooth, good detent. Action's just really great. Carry profile, let's put it up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's not all that thick, but it is contoured, which is, texturing and contouring is just really, that's something that I really like. Contouring because it feels the hand and it feels less like just a chunk of metal and more like something that is shaped to, accommodate for the human hand. Contouring just feels better. The extra chamfering and the texturing just make it feel like an object that I can go out and use, and it's not going to be slipping out of my hand, right? So length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. In the pocket, this guy's a little smaller than the PM2, a little bit longer than the Para 3, not quite as tall. It's just going to be heavier because of the titanium, right? It's a pretty substantial amount of titanium. We have internal milling, and for materials, by the way, we have titanium that's been internally milled, and then we have an M390 blade. Excuse me. It was so dry here and so cold from that Arctic front that came through. It just dried everything out, and I woke up one morning, I was like, yep, I got this now. Anyways, not crazy though. I really expected this to be at least 5 ounces, 4.69, still on the heavier side. The balance is, I would guess, probably more in the butt. Not bad though, no, it's right there in the choil. So not terrible, but if you're not used to carrying knives over 4 ounces, this might feel a little bit large, and it will for some people, right? For me, this is pretty close to what I normally carry. And for reference here, let's weigh the Full-Tie XM18. Now this one here is an unmilled scale. So if you have one with a milled scale, this is an older tie scale, it's going to weigh a little less. But this is 6 ounces. So the unmilled scales are going to weigh about 5.5. So this is still, while being roughly the same size knife, it's not bad, right? Just comparing it directly with the XM18. Okay, let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. They're there. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. So I believe all of this is going to be a T8, and that's just really nice. We have a T8 pivot, T6 lock bar insert screw, but there's absolutely no reason to ever take that out, so I'm not going to mess with it. We even have T8 pocket clip screws. I know the body screws are T8. This is really great. Just a couple of screws for the clip. It's super easy to disassemble. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. And then finally, we're going to measure the blade stock thickness, which I don't know how, but this thing's still going on this battery. Blade stock thickness coming in, unsurprisingly, at about 150 thousandths. A little on the thicker side. Meat and potatoes time. Another benefit here, well, it depends on how you define that, but I like that they gave us a compound grind that wasn't a tanto. And the reason I like that is because despite this being a pretty thick blade, you actually end up being pretty thin behind the edge. It's pretty aggressive. So you have a nice, strong, flat grind out here, and then you have the slicey portion of the blade gets really thin, this hollow ground portion. And it's a good slicer, it's a good cutter, and sharpening it over time won't dick this up because it's not, this and then an abrupt change, right? It's not a separate angle. It's just continuous curvature. That's really nice. I like the compound grind. I think it looks cool. That's what it comes down to. It looks cool and it's functional, right? Satin finish, a little bit boring, a little bit lackluster in my opinion, but it's fine if you like a satin finish. I really wish that Migron would develop a nice medium to high polished tumbled finish. I think it would just go along really well and really, really drive the nail in for the value because it just looks better. And I prefer that type of finish better anyway. I think it's less likely to have like areas that are uneven. Sometimes with a belt satin or machine satin finish, you end up with like areas that are darker or lighter because of the way that the belt hit it. So I feel like the tumbled finish is a lot more even. It just looks like a higher quality finish. But I just wish it was an option. But it's okay. It's not a big deal. The edges up here, little bit sharp, but it's only going to be when you get your fingers up there, right? Not that big of a deal. This area in here looks like it's blasted, but that's fine. A little bit of a gunk trap, right? Just wipe it out, blow it out, whatever you got to do. If you use your knives really hard or in dirty environments, you're definitely going to notice some debris build up in there, but no big deal. The texturing on the frame, Migron does such a good job of this, and it looks so good. Really nice, almost like knurling, but it's just like a micro diamond pattern. Really like it. Rest of the knife, not a lot going on here. In a lot of ways, it is very, very similar to a lot of other Migron knives that they've done. They've just gotten pretty much everything the way that at least I like it. Some people are going to look at this and say, I wish it was a flipper, right? I wish I had a rear flipper. Here's why I don't want that. And you can like whatever you want, right? Because this part right here is very, very, a lot of my reviews are really subjective, right? But this part especially. I like to be able to choke up on my knives. Now, when you have a flipper, and we'll use another XM18 actually as an example. I should have had this ready, but let me get one out here real quick. When you have a hinder with a flipper tab, like this guy right here, we have the exact same setup here as with the non-flipper, right? It's the exact, so I'm going to move this in. It's the exact same ergonomic profile, exactly the same. This one's got a flipper, right? On this knife, put your finger here, right? A little bit behind. You can kind of move it around a little bit because you're not having to worry about the flipper. In this situation, you have the flipper, so you're forced in right here. Now, this is not the most comfortable thing in the whole world, especially compared to this guy, and I have much less room. So yeah, that's great that I have a flipper. You have to really, really want the flipper though, right? So it just depends on what you want. If you really want the flipper, you don't care about choking up or anything like that, then maybe you would prefer it. On this design, I love that it's not there because personally I like to choke up and I don't want to have to screw around or dick around with the flipper tab. I also find that the deployment is to my liking. It doesn't need, from me, a flipper tab in order to deploy the way that I want it to, right? So it's really just going to come down to preference, but this does it. And I'm free to have that ergonomic comfort, move my hands around and kind of go where I want to. I love that. This is, I'm a big, I lean heavily into designs that are more ergonomic or more catering, right? This is a very, very comfortable knife to hang on to. It's a very high quality experience. So that's a big win in my book. No lefty position for the pocket clip, which is a bummer. There's also no lanyard hole, which I don't care as much about, but maybe you do. Carry depth, it's about medium. There's a good amount of the knife sticking up out of the pocket, but not crazy. It's not like down here or anything. Popsicle stick style clip, it's about 50%, which is fine. Nothing special going on here. They didn't contour the clip, which is kind of a bummer. I wish they had done so. This is just a really plain clip, but okay, right? That's fine. In and out of the pocket, you are riding on the texturing, so it does create some friction. And truthfully, Migron, if you're going to make a knife that's going to be right-handed only, go ahead and shave down the frame underneath the clip because the clip's not going to come off and flip over. The only reason that you don't do that is if you have clip mounting positions for left and right-handed carry. Because then if you take the clip off this side and put it on the other side, you get a bald spot. You're going to have a bald spot on either side, which looks weird. But the clip is covering it here, and it is creating a lot of friction in and out of the pocket. So just go ahead and shave that down right underneath where the bill connects to the frame, and it just would make the whole experience much better. Not a deal breaker, though. The only color on this whole knife is right here. It's just the pivot color. It's just a small accent, which is fine. Looks nice. I could have, take it or leave it. I don't really care. Lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, which is fine. We do have a stop pin that's attached to the blade, so it runs on channels carved at either side of the titanium frame, and you are contacting both sides of the titanium frame, and that's nice because it offers a little bit more solidity in lockup without sacrificing smoothness. There's an extra point of contact. So much less likely you're going to feel any blade play when you get the blade, kind of tuned to the action that you want. Really, really good all the way around. This is just a nice knife. Couple of little things, but man, they got it. I think they heat treat their M390 blades to about the industry standard in production knives, which is 59 to 61. It's not perfect, but okay, right? Truthfully, though, even that considered, I like this package. This is still massively overkill for a lot of people, right? But if you're trying to like maximize your dollar and you're looking for a titanium frame lock with premium materials and you want that contoured textured titanium, you're like me, you really want that nice ergonomic profile. Maybe you like compound grinds, maybe you don't really care, right? You're just thinking long term, I don't want to have an edge that's going to look crazier and crazier as I continue to sharpen it because it's got an angle in it. Continuous belly here, right? This is really nice. This is a really, really nice knife. They're not reinventing the wheel here, but they have done essentially everything correctly. $215. I was kind of surprised they didn't keep this one under 200, but okay, I'm not upset about that. I think this is great. This is, if you're looking for knives at this price point, right? If your budget's $50, well, sorry, this is out of it. I got a whole playlist called Cheap Knives I Like that's much more, what you're looking for. There's 200 videos there, so you got plenty to watch. But if you're in this territory, right, you know what to expect at this price point. This is what you're looking for. Then yeah, this is $215 well spent. Very competitive, very nice functional design. So it's going to go in my recommended knives playlist. Nice stuff from Migron. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.